Hi, my name is Reverend Dale Brown, and I have the great privilege of being the pastor of Community Church at Ocean Pines. And I have to tell you, it's an outstanding and wonderful job, wonderful church, and I'm so thrilled to have the chance to worship with them and be a part of the life and community of this United Methodist congregation. I am joined this morning by Brooke, and Brooke, I have learned, wears many hats. So let me just try to review some of those hats, Brooke, and you can also tell us what other hats you might wear.
Okay.
Number one, Brooke is a member of the District Committee on Ministry, as I am. I get the privilege sometimes of sitting next to her and things, and she keeps me awake. And she always has a jar of pens of multiple colors. And so Brooke and I and others are charged with keeping track of and supporting and affirming and loving some of our candidates for ministry. So I know Brooke from that setting. She is also on the staff at Asbury United Methodist Church in Salisbury, which I happen to know a little bit about. And her pastor there is Reverend Dr. Tom Passmore. Tom's a wonderful man. He is also on DCOM. And Asbury's a wonderful church. I have some good friends that go there. The Hershey's, I don't know if you know Tom and Beth that are there, and they've been longtime friends of our family. Tom and I went to Emmaus, and Tom worked with my dad at First Shore Federal. And they were on the loan board and things together. And dear people, wonderful United Methodist Church in Salisbury. So if you live in that area, I encourage you to go to Asbury. And Brooke's official title is Director of Youth and Family Ministries there.
I'm glad to be there.
Tell me a little bit about what do you see as the spiritual needs of the young adults and youth in our society today. If we, if we as a church or any other church wanted to effectively minister to youth, not with our expectations, but with their needs, how would you direct us?
Gosh. Well, and I feel like the needs are so dependent on the group of people that you're around. So
it varies.
It varies.
Not everybody is the
there's
same.
There's not a one size fits all. When I first started, what was really important to my core group of youth that were actively participating in everything was LGBTQ plus involvement and affirmation, and they started a Rainbow Alliance at the church, and that's great and awesome, and that's something that they really needed. Below them, that hasn't seemed to be the needs that they had or that they are having. Their needs seem to be more. I'm still figuring out what their needs are, but just being there for it.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of listening.
Yes, I do a lot of listening.
To what
I think
people are
that
saying to each
is
other
really the most important part is listening and letting them share their voice, letting them tell you what they need, and also not be. I feel very strongly that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still be effective in a youth life.
I think depending upon maybe your thinking mentality, I think you're absolutely right, because youth and anyone knows if you love and care about them, they're going to respond to that love and care if it's genuine and true. So I think for a lot of us in the life of the church, we tend to assume that we need youth to fit into our model, and I think what you're saying is we really need to pay attention to them and fit into what they need.
Oh,
I think so.
So we're doing confirmation right now.
Oh, good for you. Yes, we were trying to be a part of that.
Yes, I know, it didn't work out, but that's okay. And one of the exercises that we did recently was that we gave them an opportunity to, we said, this is the structure of how the service goes.
Okay.
And, thinking about what these elements are, what is something that you would do like creatively to get the message across differently, and like how would you change this up? And
so what did they come up with?
So feeding into what you were saying, one of the groups basically said, let's have the youth and children do all of these things, and like doing that, and some of them were picked up on the idea of like, well, that requires a lot of commitment from us. I don't know if we can really do that, but the point was, they want to be involved in the service. We have youth that read on a regular
Austin
basis.
has been scheduling our service for Good Friday. We're doing a service of Tenebrae, which is the extinguishing, as you know, but just for people listening and watching, it's the extinguishing of candles as the death of Christ grows closer. And one of our readers is a child.
Yeah.
And she's so excited. I saw her yesterday and she was here like, I'm going to read. And it means something in a different way. So including children and youth in worship and involving them. And what other ideas did they come up with?
Well, that was really the main one that stuck with me. Some of them just, were being teenagers.
They were out there.
But that one stuck with me.
Okay.
And I felt like that was great insight that they want to be involved and have it not just be giving them opportunity to take ownership of what's happening and not just being stuck in places where adults think that they should be.
Yeah, I think it's really important because they offer true, authentic, faithful service, and they're not just, quote, cute or, oh, look at how nice the youth are. When I first started in ministry, everybody always said to me, if you get youth involved, you get parents, and we always had that youth Sunday. But when youth really have a lot to offer in terms of their faith and life, and we can learn from them even as they learn from us. Nobody has the hold on all the truth.
Yeah.
So I want to switch just a little bit. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to hinge one more time.
Okay.
Obviously, you're a young woman, and you're involved in ministry. You have a seminary degree. Now, are you ordained in a capacity?
I am not.
Okay. Are you going to do that?
I have not felt that pull that's the direction I need to go
So not
in.
a deacon, none of those things,
No,
right?
Really, when I was first starting seminary and they were asking these questions, part of what kind of keeps me still thinking about it is that you have to commit to one or the other.
Yeah, you do have to make a decision.
You can't
be
do
all
one
things to all people.
Yeah, you can't do one and then say,
Absolutely.
actually, I feel like now I'm being drawn towards the other. Once you finish the process, and I was like, I don't feel strongly enough pulled one way or the other to go through the process.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And we know the process because we sit on the come. So, but one of the things that I strongly affirm are women in ministry, and I think it's very important. So what would you say to a young woman who's looking at what is often a male-dominated, occupation? How would you encourage them? What would you say to them as a young woman who's gone through this process and is involved in the life of the church?
Yeah, and that is when I say, gosh, I wish I was feeling called towards being an elder.
Everybody's calling is
but it's not. It's just that's just not where I feel called.
But if you become an elder, then you have to itinerate.
Right.
And that's a whole different reality.
Yeah.
And we have a great need for people who are engaged in youth ministry and campus ministry. And if you ever change that, that's in God's hands and your decision. But what would you say to a young woman who is looking at ministry or a life of service, in the church? What would you say to her?
Well, I mean, I would say if that's where you feel called, go for it. I was fortunate when I was younger. Cindy Quillen was
I know Cindy very well.
Yes, she was the associate pastor. So
she was the deacon.
Yeah, I got to see her in a leadership role. I got to see Laura Sweat was there for a
Laura
while.
very well as well.
So I got to see women in Benita Harris
Benita.
Leadership positions.
She just retired about 4 years ago.
Yeah, she works for my mom.
No, I didn't know that. Wow. This is like old home week. If you guys want to watch, it's okay. We'll just hang out here and talk, so it's okay.
So I got to see that, and that was so powerful.
So you need the role model.
You need those role models.
And I say that's true of persons, whether it's an ethnic reality or what. Seeing somebody in leadership who looks like you makes a huge difference.
It does.
And that's why we need to be, as a white male pastor, we need to be willing to step aside sometimes and say, this woman, this person, has leadership ability, and we want them as a part of the larger church. And, they're our brothers and sisters in Christ, and we value them. So seeing a role model, what else would you say?
Yeah. I would say I'm here for hugs when you
Okay. And it is. It's not an easy process.
It's not easy.
It's a long process.
Yes.
And I often explain it this way. it would be one thing if it was only a knowledge issue, but it's really a character and a spiritual formation issue. And that's why the process seems long, but you learn a lot, not just information, and that's important. Knowing, the stuff that, why we believe about grace, what we believe, or why we do this or that or the other, but forming the character of the person, because there's going to come those times when people need those hugs, or when it's been a tough challenge. And so the formation piece is very important. And things, and hanging in there is another part of it, just being persevering.
Reminding them that your voice is needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And their voice matters.
And your voice matters. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I worked with Missy Rakitsky, right?
Yes,
and,
I know Missy very well.
And I know that, she's received feedback of men telling her, could you include some stories in your sermons that I could relate to more? I just feel like I'm being left out. And we both looked at each other, and I was like, you feel left out.
I understand. And,
we know it's important to include.
And that's why those different voices are so important. You're laughing, it's okay. But the different voices are important because, if only men preach, then women's voices are not heard, and they feel left out, and their experiences are not valued. But the same is true with men.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody in the kingdom of God has value. It doesn't matter what your gender or your background, that persons really are important. And we need to listen to and value one another rather than say, it's my way. So all right, so what else? So we've got a couple more minutes here. So what else are you going to tell these young women that are entering ministry? And, I have a young lady here who, and I've told her mom and dad, she's probably, I guess, maybe 7 or 8. And I'm looking at her going, you're entering ministry. You're just, I'm just encouraging you to do that. And I'm praying for her and her 2 brothers and things. But I think if we don't encourage young women to say, you can do this, this is a place for you. And I just think it's really, really important to do that because we need to include all of those perspectives. We're a richer church when we do that.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to say, I believe you can do this. I think it's also important to say, as long as that's what you feel like you need to do. Yeah, that's your
it's very much a calling.
Yeah, and I think that something that maybe women hear more than what men, but maybe not. Maybe you can tell me if you think I'm wrong. But this idea of not trusting your gut and not to tell you.
Yeah, I would guess that's right. I think what you're saying is correct.
And I think that there, in some ways, there's some biblical affirmation for saying that. And so, but I think that it can get very twisted and very I'm just going to use the word toxic. But...
So can I jump in and help you with this?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that happens is, and I'll give you an example. For men, they like to quote the scripture that says, women be silent or be submissive in the church, and that they're to respect people and things. And the other part they don't quote is that husbands, men, are to love their wives and to respect women as Christ loved the church. And we tend to manipulate scripture for our own purposes. And I think broadening that, when, as a United Methodist, a proud United Methodist, there were always women exhorters in John Wesley's, life and planning. And one of the ladies who, did a tremendous thing was Susanna, his mother. I mean, we would not exist were it not for Susanna Wesley. And Barbara Heck in New York, when she threw the cards of Captain Webb in the fireplace and said, we don't live that way, and really established the Methodist Church, at Methodist Episcopal Church at that time in New York. There's always been women's involvement, but women were not ordained until when in the United Methodist Church? It's very
I
recent.
didn't
It's in
come
the last.
with that information.
I'm sorry.
In my head.
That's all right. Well, you're okay. We'll let you slide. But I think it's within the last 25 or 30 years that women have been ordained.
In the United Methodist
United
Church?
Methodist Church.
25 or 30 years?
Yeah.
Oh, it's been longer than that.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. I'll trust you.
You know, it's 2023.
Okay, so we're gonna Google this
Okay,
at some point and
I
see.
welcome it.
I think you're.
I know it's longer than
I'm
that.
going to respect your opinion, but I don't have my phone. So Austin, you've got your
the
phone
United
there.
Methodist Church was one of the first churches to start ordaining women.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, we may edit this whole conversation here at this point, but I'm going to defer to Brooke because she knows more than I do. So at any rate, I'm not sure where to go from here now. I'm flustered, Brooke. So
well, also
anyway,
one of the things that I wanted to get across with like not being able to trust yourself is that then when you do feel that call to ministry, sometimes you don't trust that call because you've been told so many times that your heart is deceitful and that you can't trust yourself, and that is so that it's really hard to untangle that.
All right. So we're gonna pause here for just a second, and first of all, let me say, Brooke, thank you for being here. Glad you're here. And Austin, are we okay with you? All right. So we're gonna have an addendum. I'm gonna go get my phone, and I'm gonna Siri when women were ordained in the United Methodist Church, and we'll see. And I'm betting that Brooke is right. Even though as a United Methodist, I'm really not supposed to bet, according to the Book of Discipline.
That's right.
And I think so. But Brooke is a wonderful, wonderful young woman who is so active in the life of the church. And thank you for this and things, and for being here and for helping us today. And I hope that the things at Salisbury go really, really well. I have a young niece who graduated from Salisbury with a degree in physical therapy this past December, and it makes me feel really good that there's a United Methodist witness on the campus. So what you do is important.
Thank you. Can I make a plug for our fundraiser?
Make a plug.
So the Wesley Foundation is a general United Methodist ministry, not just an Asbury ministry. This is a United Methodist ministry. So we belong to all of this, and I always welcome collaboration. So if you have a young adult ministry that you guys would like to work together and do things together, I would love to connect with you. But also we have a fundraiser to keep this ministry going at SU, and that is going to be. It's not till May 11th, so there's a little bit of time.
Yes, we got a lot of time.
But it's going to be a Sweet Frog fundraiser, so all you have to do is go eat some frozen yogurt.
And you get a percentage?
Yes,
okay.
But you have to bring the flyer with you, which can drop off some flyers here.
And we did that with Carrabba's in West Ocean City as well. Yes. That's really cool. And I will come eat yogurt, or I'll pretend that I did and send you some money. But this is also something that local churches can underwrite. I mean, churches, could give to you guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We are funded by the conference, but we also know that as time goes on, that might not be as available.
And there might be other extra things you want to do.
Exactly. And like we've taken on interns from Salisbury University to help, and that's been so helpful. And I believe in paid internships, so we make sure we pay our interns.
Okay, good.
And to keep that going, I would
Austin started off as our IT intern.
There you go.
And just so everybody knows, Austin does the filming and taping and editing now and things here at Community Church. So we're back. This is the addendum to the podcast with Brooke. And what we have discovered is that, as we expected, Brooke is right, but I'm also right. So it's great to share both being correct with you. All right, so I had to go into Google. And of course, we know that Google is always correct. And what we discovered is that, in one sense, because we only have existed as a United Methodist Church since 1968, nobody was ordained in the United Methodist Church prior to that, women or men. Mm-hmm. But here is where Brooke is correct.
But we also determined that Dale just forgot what year it is.
That's right. It's true. Yes. Because I'm thinking 25 years ago is 1960 something. thank you. Now that you've made me feel extremely old, Brooke, thank you. And I'm not even sure what my name is anymore. But Mary, I guess that's Boston Quiet Fletcher, was a lay preacher with John Wesley, and then women were ordained as ministers in the late 19th century in what was the forerunner Methodist Episcopal Church. In the Methodist Protestant Church, Eleanor M. Davison, Prince too small, I have to stick my arm out to read, was ordained in the Methodist Protestant Church, and Anna Howard Shaw. I'm sorry, 1996. 1866. And then Anna Howard Shaw was refused ordination by the General Conference because Anna Howard Shaw was an African American woman, hence Shaw University. And she was refused ordination by the Methodist Episcopal Church in 1880, and later joined the Methodist Protestant Church and was ordained by the New York Annual Conference. And then it goes on and on and on. Now, do you remember the name of the first bishop a female bishop?
Oh, you told me 2 minutes ago.
I know, and see, you've forgotten. See, I think so. But at any rate, what we're going to say is this: we celebrate and give thanks for all women who are in ministry, ordained or lay, and it's a wonderful part of the life of the church. And folks, it's good to laugh, and it's good to make mistakes, and it's good to learn new things. And now, if I have a question ever, I'm just calling Brooke, and she'll tell me what the answer is. Because as we know, I don't even know what year it is at this point in time. Brooke, thank you, friend. Blessings to you. And Austin, thank you as well. Because we're going to wear out the battery on your phone. All right, so this is the addendum to the podcast. And it's Dale and Brooke again. We're going to start our own new show. And Brooke said after we finish the addendum that we need to remind everybody it's Women's History Month. Yeah. So I think that's really cool. And that's one of the reasons Brooke, I wanted you on the show during this time. And please do affirm your pastor, particularly if your pastor is a woman. And they have a hard road sometimes. And just, love and pray for them and respect them and follow their leadership, and just know that they are a great gift to this conference, and learn something new about women in ministry or women in faith, or, during this Women's History Month as well. Brooke, again, thank you for the third time.